A quiet lunch in a bathroom stall. That was the dream. But Hidaka Akira just found out the hard way that the girl sitting at the top of the social ladder isn't just a social butterfly, she's a predator. Chiyo Tsukimine has her arms wrapped tight, her fangs out, and her eyes locked on the one thing Hidaka tried so hard to protect, his privacy. This isn't a school romance, it's a buffet, and the loner is the main course. High school life. They call it youth, a glittering collection of clubs, lovers, and high expectations. Hidaka Akira watches it all like a ghost in the machine, hands deep in his pockets as the hallway noise blurs into static. For him, the social hierarchy isn't a game, it's a distraction he's opted out of entirely. Hidaka's carefully constructed walls were supposed to last 3 years. No friends, no drama, no problems. But fate has a cruel sense of humor, especially when it wears a school uniform and licks its lips after a meal. Until that day when the girl who serves as the focal point of the universe decided she liked the taste of the ghost in the back of the room. 2 months into enrollment, and the classroom is a minefield of established groups. At the scorching heart of the sun is Chiyo Tsukimine, armed with a mountain of bakery bread and an effortless laugh. Her friends marvel at her appetite, but Chiyo just hugs her haul tight, snapping, "Ah, I'm not giving you any, okay?" While the rest of the school builds their pages of youth, Akira seeks the only place where the pressure drops to zero. He slips away from the noise, his hands steady against the cold surface of the cubicle door. This is his ritual, his sanctuary. Welcome to the glamorous life of a professional loner. Perched on a toilet seat with a plastic-wrapped sandwich and a smartphone, Akira finds the quiet surprisingly decent. Hygiene is a minor concern, but as long as the food stays in the bag, the peace of his private refuge outweighs the indignity of the setting. He's been the new kid so many times he's lost the blueprints for human connection. No more searching for youth, no more trying to fit in. He just wants to spend his time quietly. That's the dream, until the shadow of someone else's hair spills over the top of the divider. The sanctuary is breached. Chiyo Tsukimine is literally hanging over the wall of his stall like a curious cat, fangs peeking out as she spots him. Akira freezes, sandwich midair, as she delivers a request that makes zero sense in the boy's room. "Can you open the door?" She doesn't wait for an invite. The class's undisputed reigning queen crowds into his tiny cubicle, shattering his quiet life in 3 seconds flat. When he asks why the school idol is eating in a bathroom, her face scrunches up in a sudden sharp pout. "Because I don't have any friends." It's a glitch in the universe. The bright, popular center of the class is currently hiding in a stall, looking at Akira's lunch with a hunger that feels off. Her fingers twitch, her gaze fixed on him with an intensity that makes his skin crawl. She leans in, whispering, "It looks delicious." He tries to offer the bread, but Chiyo isn't looking at the carbs, she's looking at him. While he tries to play it off with a nervous joke about separate stomachs, the atmosphere in the stall shifts from awkward to predatory. The silence is suddenly very, very heavy. The metal click of the lock echoes like a gunshot. Before Akira can even process the sound, Chiyo is on him, a blur of black hair and heat, pinning him against the tank. The world narrows down to her hands on his shoulders and a secret that is about to become a physical reality. He can only gasp out a panicked, "Hey." Reason has left the room. She's not listening to his protests, her eyes wide and focused as she reaches for his collar. "I'll undo the button," she murmurs, her voice a low vibration against his chest. Akira's heart hammers against his ribs as his bare skin is exposed to the cool air of the bathroom. The space between them vanishes. He feels her breath, then the sharp, needle-point sting of her teeth sinking into the soft flesh of his neck. Akira's eyes snap shut, his whole body tensing as the chomp vibrates through his bones. It's a violation of his quiet life that he never could have imagined. The stall is silent except for the rhythmic, wet sound of her feeding. Akira's head lolls back against the wall, a strange, draining warmth spreading from the wound. He manages a weak plea for her to stop, but Chiyo is lost in the meal, her tongue tracing the edges of the marks she's left on him. When she finally pulls away, she looks transformed. Her face is flushed, a stray drop of crimson glistening on her lip as she stares at him with glazed, satisfied eyes. Akira can only stare back, breathless and trembling, his pulse thumping visibly in his throat. The predator retreats into the schoolgirl. With a clumsy apology and a band-aid pulled from her pocket, Chiyo tries to patch over the carnage. She looks at him, the weight of their shared isolation hanging in the air. This is our secret. Akira looks at the adhesive strip in his hand, his ticket to a very complicated future. He wanted a quiet life, but the universe had other plans. As she slips out from behind the door with a wink and a whispered, "Thanks for the meal," Akira realizes his isolation is officially over, because the most popular girl in school isn't just lonely. Chiyo Tsukimine is a vampire. Akira's quiet life just got hit with a notification from the girl who sits at the center of everyone's attention. He's staring at the message like it's a live grenade, his brain short-circuiting over how a guy like him is supposed to talk to a friend like Chiyo. He considers the emoji and sticker route to look like a normal human, but the effort alone is exhausting. He stares at the brick wall of his own social ineptitude and decides to give up on the facade. It's not really my style, so I'll just be myself as usual. On the other side of the screen, Chiyo is practically vibrating. She's been waiting with bated breath, her fangs almost peeking out as she checks for a notification every 2 seconds. When the phone finally buzzes, the reply is as dry as unbuttered toast. Homework. It's just one word, but to a girl who has always been invisible to her peers, it's a lifeline. She can't stop the heat rising to her cheeks, a genuine smile breaking through the mask she usually wears for the world. It's a tiny, mundane moment, and it's the best part of her day. The peace is broken when Yuzu slides into the booth, her eyes immediately zeroing in on Chiyo's glowing expression. She's too sharp for Chiyo's own good, noticing that the class idol is wearing a look that's far too real for a casual meetup with friends. Before the interrogation can start, a sonic boom of pure misery hits the restaurant. Sakura collapses into the booth like her world has just been salted and burned. The dramatic sobbing is enough to make the other diners question their life choices. Wah! Tears are flying, the table is shaking, and Sakura delivers the news like she's the lead in a Greek tragedy. She doesn't just say it, she bellows it to the entire establishment. I was cheated on. The cheating turns out to be her favorite actor simply having a life outside of her posters. Sakura treats the news like a personal assassination attempt, while Yuzu watches the meltdown with the detached interest of a scientist observing a particularly loud lab rat. While Sakura rants, Chiyo's brain takes a sharp, terrifying turn into a logic puzzle. If the mere existence of a relationship is a betrayal, where does her secret, blood-bound deal with Akira fall? Her pulse quickens as the thought takes root. Speaking of which, I wonder if Yuko-kun has a girlfriend? The realization hits like a physical blow. She's been feeding from him in the dark, an act more intimate than anything Sakura is crying about. Her mind screams the question she's terrified to answer. In that case, does blood-sucking count as cheating? She tries to fish for a safe answer, but her friends aren't giving her an inch of ground. Yuzu says it starts with a kiss, but Sakura's already declared war on anything more than a hello. No, going out together already crosses the line, right? Chiyo is crumbling under the weight of her own questions, and her friends are starting to notice the cracks in her composure. It's rare for the untouchable idol to get this worked up over romance talk, and the suspicion in the booth is becoming palpable. They've caught her. Yuzu brings up the phone grinning from earlier, and Sakura smells blood in the water. Chiyo's defense is as weak as her heartbeat after a long fast, stammering out a vague story about someone who's been helping her. She tries to play it off as something casual, just someone she sees occasionally, but the more she talks, the more it sounds like a connection she can't quite categorize as normal. The rumors start flying before she can even finish her sentence. Sugar dating? An affair? Sakura's fingers are already pointing, accusing the class goddess of being corrupted by the dark side. That's not it. We're the same age. Behind the denial is a quiet, aching realization. She doesn't understand romance, and she doesn't know the rules. All she knows is that if Akira belongs to someone else, this strange secret sanctuary they've built might be a crime she can't commit. The fear is there, but the need to know is stronger. She's done hiding behind vague questions and moral hypotheticals. She looks at the tomorrow waiting for her with a fierce, fanged determination. I'll try asking Yuko-kun directly tomorrow. Silence drops over the table like a lead weight. Chiyo's heart stops as she sees the look on her friends' faces. She didn't just resolve to ask him, she used his name. The secret is out, and the chill running down her spine says her quiet life just went up in flames. I feel a chill. Akira starts his morning with a digital hangover. He stares at his phone, the silence from yesterday's chat feeling like a physical weight in his pocket. He's spiraling into the did I say too much abyss, convinced a single curt message has finally torpedoed his quiet life. Then the world stops. He sees the black hair and red highlights. She's right there. They make eye contact for a split second, a spark of panic in a crowded hallway. Her friends are whispering, leaning in, their eyes darting toward him like he's a specimen under a microscope. He catches the tail end of a frantic confession as Chiyo blushes a deep, messy crimson. I know already, she shouts, the secret between them vibrating in the air like a live wire. The idol of the class steps out of her circle, leaving her nosy friends behind to corner him. Her hand is white-knuckled against her blazer, her breath coming in short, jagged bursts. This isn't the vampire queen, this is a girl terrified of her own shadow. She looks him in the eye and drops the hammer. After school, can we talk for a bit? The school building looms overhead, suddenly feeling a lot more like a gallows. The stairs feel like they're miles long. He trails behind her, watching the way her long hair sways, his heart hammering against his ribs in a rhythm he doesn't recognize. It feels like a confession, but for Akira, that's just another word for a disaster. The rooftop is wide open and terrifyingly quiet. They stand at opposite ends of a conversation that hasn't started yet. He's counting the seconds, the silence stretching until it snaps. His internal voice is screaming, "What's with this silence?" Every second that passes is another chance for him to turn and run. His eyes fix on her, seeing the invisible crown she wears. To him, she's at the top of a mountain he's never even tried to climb. He tells himself he's used to being excluded, that a loner has nothing to lose, but the thought of their strange, bloody bond breaking actually hurts. He doesn't want to go back to being just a ghost in the hallway. Chiyo is short-circuiting. The teasing from her friends is playing on a loop in her brain, blurring the line between her needs and her feelings. She's lost the timing, the rhythm, the entire script. She grips her skirt, realizing that being alone with him on a rooftop carries a weight she wasn't prepared to carry. The pressure builds until it hits the boiling point, and they both explode at the exact same time. The word hits the air like a car crash. They freeze, faces burning, eyes squeezed shut against the sheer, unadulterated cringe of being perfectly in sync. The silence was bad, but this is a whole new level of torture. The laughter dies quickly, leaving a cold, hard knot in her stomach. She tries to find the words to ask a normal question, but there's nothing normal about their relationship. The fear of a hypothetical girlfriend is eating her alive. If he belongs to someone else, what does that make her? A monster? Or just a homewrecker with fangs? His phone rings, cutting through the tension like a blade. He stares down at the screen, reflecting on how he's spent his whole life avoiding getting close enough to be hurt. He should be happy to be disliked, happy to be invisible. So why does the idea of Chiyo hating him feel like a physical blow? He remembers the warmth of her breath, the sharp sting of the bite, the only real connection he's had in years. He's moved schools so many times he's lost count, always leaving before anyone could see him. But she's trying to say something. She's trying to reach him. For once, he's going to stay put and listen. He takes a breath, his face glowing red, but his eyes locked onto hers. He's tired of the ambiguity. If they're friends, if there's something else, he needs to accept it. I think I'll be fine, so there's no need to hold back. He's offering himself up, and the look in her eyes says she's about to take much more than he realized. She doesn't offer a confession. She offers a moral crisis. She leans in, her voice trembling as she drops a question that short-circuits his entire brain. Do you think sucking blood counts as cheating? He stands there, frozen, trying to process the logic of a vampire who worries about relationship etiquette while her fangs are literally out. The absurdity of the moment is only matched by the pathetic nature of his answer. He has to say it. He has to admit his total lack of a romantic life to the most popular girl in school. I don't know. I've never had a girlfriend before. It's the ultimate loner confession, delivered on a rooftop while a vampire stands between him and the exit. The tension snaps, but not into romance, into pure, comedic relief. Chiyo wipes her brow, a bright, fanged grin breaking across her face as she celebrates his loneliness. That's a relief. Now I can suck without worries. Akira's jaw drops. He's been spared a moral lecture only to be reminded that he's basically just a juice box with a backpack. She isn't waiting for a formal invitation. She moves into his space, her eyes darkening, the playful girl replaced by the predator. He stammers, trying to bring up minor things like consent or timing, but the shadow she casts over him is absolute. Her face looks scary, but there's a heat behind it that makes his knees weak. She strikes. There's no grace to it, just the sharp, sudden heat of her fangs sinking into the hollow of his neck. His breath hitches, his fingers curling into the rooftop railing as she drinks. It's messy, it's intimate, and it's the only time he feels like he's actually visible to the world. He gets carried away every time, anchored only by the weight of her body against his. She pulls back, humming with a satisfaction that's almost glowing. Apparently, relief makes the blood taste better. Akira, meanwhile, is losing a battle with gravity. He slumps against the wall, his head spinning as his gaze settles on the girl who just drained him dry. He's dazed, lightheaded, and dangerously close to a new realization. I'm starting to want a girlfriend. The rooftop drama and the lingering threat of Chiyo's fangs are behind him, but Akira's quiet life is still a flickering ghost. He retreats to the fluorescent safety of a video store, searching for a distraction that doesn't involve being someone's literal snack. He settles on an all-night marathon of Breaking Dad. No bloodlust, no social minds, just a stack of discs and a self-checkout machine. It's the perfect, sterile plan for a man who just decided he wants a girlfriend, but hasn't the slightest clue how to talk to a human who isn't trying to drain him dry. A sudden heavy hand slams into his back, nearly sending his rental stack flying. He whirls around, heart hammering against his ribs as he expects Chiyo's predatory grin. Instead, he's met with a face full of blonde energy and a blindingly bright, "Yo, it's Mamizuka." The girl from class, who's usually a background extra, is suddenly occupying his entire personal bubble. She's grinning, tilting her head, and demanding he drop the polite act. She chirps, "Oh, you can just call me Sakura." Then she drops the bomb. She's heard about him from Chiyo. Akira's world tilts. He braces for the word vampire or feeding, but the curveball she throws is even more absurd. She was worried he was sugaring for their school idol. He needs to escape before his blood pressure actually kills him. She isn't letting him go. She leans in, eyes wide with a terrifyingly hopeful sparkle as she inspects his bag. She's looking for something spicy, something scandalous, whispering, "Ah, could it be something naughty?" She puts a finger to her lips, making a big production out of having a secret of her own. Akira tries to pivot to logic. Why even come to a physical store when streaming exists? But Sakura clearly isn't here for the convenience. She's here for the vibe. Her gaze softens as she looks at the shelves. There's something genuine in the way she describes the hunt, the chance of finding something you weren't looking for. You can find unexpected encounters, so I like it. It's cheesy, it's earnest, and for a second, Akira actually feels his pulse skip for a reason that isn't fear. He grips his plastic bag tight, his knuckles white. He's spent his whole school career perfecting the art of being invisible, and yet this girl is peeling back the layers with zero effort. He thinks, why am I feeling like I'm being charmed? She disappears for a second and returns with a trophy, the same sequel to Breaking Dad he just rented. She's already planning the post-watch debrief like it's a school project. Because we can discuss our thoughts on it, right? Akira can only stare. Popular kids really do operate on a different frequency. She drops the nickname Yuko-kun like they've been friends for years, shattering his carefully maintained barrier. But then she gets honest. At school, he gives off an aura that screams, "Stay away." She admits, "I thought you were cold from the beginning." She throws him another curveball, casually mentioning it's a waste since he's such a handsome guy. Before he can even process the compliment, the phones are out. Akira finds himself exchanging contact info, watching his quiet, solitary life vanish into a digital notification and a cute icon. She waves a bright goodbye, her energy still vibrating in the air even after she turns to leave. Akira stands there, dazed, thinking that maybe this interaction wasn't so bad after all. Then the sound of a sharp ouch cuts through his thoughts. She's flat on the ground, the victim of her own lack of spatial awareness. Akira rushes over, but Sakura is already spiraling into a vortex of pure embarrassment. The cool popular girl mask has slipped, leaving her stuttering apologies for being so awkward. He reaches out to help, but his eyes catch on the pile of books that spilled out of her bag. Sakura tries to play it off, teasing him again about being naughty just to distract him. But Akira isn't looking at her, he's pointing at the evidence scattered on the asphalt. The titles are lethal. Techniques to make people like you 101. The class socialite isn't a natural. She's a student of the grind, desperate enough to buy a book on how to speak just to be liked. Her face hits a shade of red that rivals Chiyo's eyes as she shrieks, "It's not mine, okay?" The final bell is a mercy kill for the day's energy. Sakura is already bouncing back with the resilience of a coiled spring, but Chiyo is officially done, her forehead currently forming a permanent bond with her desk as her public battery hits 0. Exams are looming like a shadow over the social elite, and even Chiyo's perfect grades took a hit last time. Sakura's eyes light up with a dangerous flash of inspiration. She taps her chin, a mask of deep thought before the reveal, and announces, "I just thought of something good." Akira is trying to blend into the floorboards when the peace is shattered by a high-decibel greeting. Sakura is halfway across the room before the air even clears. She beams at him, loud enough for the back row to hear, "Hey, Yuko," one frantic, socially pressured agreement later, and the nightmare has followed Akira home. He's sweating through his shirt outside his own front door while the girls wait for the grand tour. He looks at his key like it's a detonator, screaming internally, "Why did it come to this?" He let the study session happen just to avoid making a scene, and now his sanctuary is about to be breached. Akira offers a weak warning about the mess, his hand trembling on the knob. Sakura's already cheering as the door swings open to reveal his private life. Chiyo is hovering in the hallway, looking like she's ready to bolt, her face flushing at every word. Sakura isn't helping. She's already digging for the dirt, leaning in with a playful grin. "By the way, Sakura, when did you become friends with Yuko-kun?" Sakura bursts into the room like she owns the place, arms wide to take in every square inch of his personal space. Yuzu remains the sole person keeping it cool, scanning the shelves with a quiet, judgmental eye while Akira retreats to the safety of the kitchen. Sakura is already diving toward his bookshelves, shouting about hunting for adult magazines while Yuzu practically has to restrain her by the collar. Akira watches the madness from the sink, his voice flat as he explains the parental transfer that left him in this solo apartment. It's not a bachelor pad, it's just a house for one. The chaos actually settles into a rhythm as the tea is poured and the notebooks come out. 5:13 p.m. hits, and Chiyo is finally in her element, leaning over to guide Yuzu through the science problems. It's almost normal. A serious study session in a room that usually only knows silence. Naturally, Sakura's academic focus lasted exactly 10 minutes before she found his manga collection. Akira watches her slack off while his mind drifts to Chiyo. She's ranked 3rd in the whole grade, a powerhouse of diligence, yet she looks like she's fighting a war with the paper in front of her. Chiyo is locked in, her teeth gritted as she scribbles with a ferocity that's bordering on scary. The girl doesn't do casual study. When Sakura suggests a break, Chiyo doesn't even look up, her voice strained. "Wait, I'm almost done solving this one." Sakura decides a sugar rush provides the best way forward and drags a confused Yuzu toward the door. She's gone in a whirlwind of let's go energy, leaving Akira standing in the sudden, deafening quiet. He's never had people over and now he's about to have a very specific person over. The front door clicks shut. The atmosphere in the room shifts instantly, growing heavy and thick with the things they haven't said. Chiyo finally looks up from her notes, her eyes wide as she realizes the buffer is gone. It's just a boy and a girl in a small room, and the clock alone is making a sound. Akira can't even look at her, his pulse thundering in his ears like a drum. Every small detail of his room feels exposed, from the bed in the corner to the way the light hits Chiyo's hair. The thought is a physical weight. In Yuko-kun's room, their eyes finally meet, and the world outside the apartment ceases to exist. There are no friends, no exams, and no secrets, just the heat rising in their cheeks as the reality of the moment crashes down. The question screams through the silence, "It's just the two of us." Outside in the cooling air, the mastermind reveals her hand. Sakura didn't just forget her snacks, she practically orchestrated a tactical retreat to leave the lovebirds alone. Yuzu sees right through the performance, but Sakura just beams, admitting it was very obvious. While the girls decide to take a bit of a detour, the atmosphere back in the apartment has turned into a pressurized chamber. Chiyo is hunched over her notes, her profile sharp and filled with a sudden, crushing self-consciousness. The silence is a physical weight, broken only by the scratch of a pen and the thundering of two hearts. Akira reaches for her worksheet, his fingers grazing the paper as he tries to maintain his mask of indifference. He repeats the mantra like a prayer, "Stay calm, stay calm." The verdict is in, and it's a massacre. Chiyo's face contorts into a mask of pure, unadulterated horror as Akira delivers the news. It's mostly wrong, I think. She doesn't just give up, she physically slides off the emotional cliff, burying her face in the desk. Akira scrambles for a compliment, grasping at her athletic prowess to keep her from sinking through the floorboards. It backfires. Chiyo just sighs into the wood of the desk, concluding she's just a musclehead with an empty head. The joke dies as Chiyo looks up, her eyes reflecting a loneliness that sports trophies can't fix. This isn't just about math, it's about the life she was never allowed to have. She whispers that this is her first time being able to attend school properly, before quickly trying to laugh the heavy truth away. He watches her, the school idol, the vampire, a girl currently unraveling right in his bedroom. Something in her expression twitches, a crack in the perfect facade that makes his own pulse jump. He can't just let her stay in the dark. He points to the ink on the page, showing her the logic beneath the mistakes. Her calculations were right, she just grabbed the wrong tools. He locks eyes with her, his voice steady as he tells her, "So let's try a bit harder, okay?" The air in the room suddenly feels scarce. Akira leans in, his own face heating up as he offers more than just tutoring. He promises to stay by her side today, adding with a shaky breath, "I'll give you a reward too." The word reward hits Chiyo with a tangible jolt, her eyes going wide before she dissolves into a flustered, giggling mess. She hides her face behind her pen, unable to handle how cute he's being. Akira can only bury his face in his hand, cursing himself for being such a smooth talker. 8 o'clock rolls around, and the impossible has happened. Chiyo finished. She's practically vibrating with energy, leaning across the small table with stars in her eyes. When she demands to know what the reward is, Akira just pulls at his collar, his voice a strained whisper, "Don't make me say it." He's used to her hunger, but being here in the sanctuary of his own room makes every inch of proximity feel lethal. She leans in, the distance vanishing until he can feel the heat of her skin. A sharp bite sound echoes in his mind as she gets closer than ever before. Just as the tension peaks, Chiyo recoils. She grips her skirt until her knuckles turn white, convinced she's just a burden who doesn't deserve a prize for sulking. Akira watches her retract, his own desperation rising as he realizes he doesn't want her to stop. She looks at him with eyes brimming with a soft, terrifying sincerity. She promises to give her absolute best on the test, but she has one condition. Her voice drops, intimate and hopeful. "After the test is over, can I ask again?" The romantic bubble doesn't just pop, it's nuked. Sakura bursts through the door with a triumphant "We're back," freezing as she finds them in a compromisingly close huddle. The teasing begins instantly, leaving the two of them flustered and trapped in the bright, loud reality of their meddling friends.